What's up, YouTube? This is the Mermail Master coming at you with Team Time Riders YouTube channel to showcase you a video on my Batterymen deck profile. Now, Batterymen are probably one of the most forgotten archetypes, especially in this day and age, but what I've found is that they can actually steal a lot of wins if you know what you're doing and you're able to put an OTK on board. Now, the great thing about this deck is that it all focuses really around one strong push. And if you have the correct cards, the four main Batterymen in the deck, then you're able to make impressive boards and be able to steal wins and push forward. So without further ado, I'm just going to start the deck profile. I'm going to explain some of my choices on the way, and then hopefully you can get a little bit out of that. So to start, we've got 3 Batterymen Microcell. Now, Microcell is the card that you want to open with if you're going first. Your opponent's not really going to know what you're playing. So, for instance, if you it's a flip monster, and its basic effect is that when it's flipped face up, special summon 1 Batteryman from your deck. The Batteryman that you're usually going to be getting is going to be 3 of the Batteryman 9-volt. 9-volt is what single-handedly made the Batteryman deck great. 9-volt's effect states that whenever it's special summoned, you can add 1 Batteryman monster from your deck to your hand. So basically, if your opponent attacks in a Microcell, flips it face up, you get to special summon a 9-volt from your deck, who will then search you out another Batteryman that you need. In addition, when Microcell is destroyed by battle after it's being flipped face up, you also get to draw a card from your deck, which means that you're going maybe +2 to +3 each and every turn. So the card that you usually want to fetch with 9-volt is going to be 3 Batteryman Charger. Now, Batteryman Charger is the one tribute in the deck, but he is the source of all your power plays. Whenever he's tribute summoned, you get to special summon 1 Batteryman monster from your deck. Usually you'd go for another Batteryman 9-volt. Since you'd special summon this on your opponent's turn, you get to grab another 9-volt from your deck and get another search. In addition, effect that I really like is the fact that he gains 300 attack for every single Batteryman. So for each Thunder type monster on the field, which means that if you already control Batteryman Charger and a 9-volt, he goes up to 600. The last Batteryman in the deck that you run 3s of, there's 3 Batteryman Fuel Cells. When you control 2 Batterymen on the field, you get to special summon Batteryman Fuel Cell from your hand. Now, if you have a Charger play from the turn before, you summon Charger, special summon your 9-volt, and then you can instantly grab a Fuel Cell from your hand right off of 9-volt's effect. Then, since you have 2 Batterymen on your field, and special summon Fuel Cell to the field, Batteryman Charger gains an extra 300 attack, going up to 900, and then Fuel Cell is 21. This would be, for instance, 27, and this is at 2000 because it gets double attack when it searches. So you already have enough damage on board. If you have 1 more Fuel Cell in hand from maybe like a previous play, or you opened it, for instance, you can special summon that on board and it's game right away. So just really, really explosive plays around all 4 of these monsters. In addition, Fuel Cell actually has a really, really nifty effect, which allows you to be able to tribute 1 Batteryman you control to bounce 1 card on your opponent's side of the field back to their hand. This is awesome if you're going to, if you want to tribute off your 9-volt. 9-volt has an effect that when it searches the Batteryman, its attack is doubled, but it dies at the end of your turn. So getting a little bit of extra usage out of a 9-volt that would just disappear from the field anyway is really, really good. So definitely something to consider. The last Batteryman of the deck I'm going to showcase is going to be Batteryman Industrial Strength. And he's just sort of a late game play. You put him on the field after you have maybe a considerable number of Batterymen in the graveyard. Usually that situation is not supposed to happen. You want to be OTKing as fast as possible. You want to be putting a lot of damage on board, but sometimes there comes a situation where you may have to remove him. Oftentimes your opponents really won't see him coming, It depends on what your opponents are playing, but his effect states that you can banish 2 Batterymen from your graveyard. So he's sort of kind of like a BLS in that way to special summon him, and then banish 1 more Batteryman to destroy 1 monster and 1 spell and trap. And remember, this effect is mandatory for both of these cards. So if your opponent has just a monster or just a spell and trap, then you won't be able to activate it. However, having that extra field clearing ability, in addition to be packing a 2600 body, could be the difference between victory and defeat. And Batteryman Industrial Strength has saved me in the late game several times. So I really think that it's a fantastic card at 1. In addition, it's also searchable off of 9-volt as well, which makes an extra bonus for that. Excuse me. So the final card I'm playing in the deck for monsters is going to be 2 Honest. Now, the reason that I kept Honest in the deck is because a lot of the time, what you're going to be doing, you're going to have a Batteryman on the field, your opponent's going to have like a Dark Destroyer or Utopia or like a Magnus or something like that. You want to be able to attack in and beat over. So if you have Honest, since it activates in the damage calculation, Magnus would have to negate the monster attacking. So, there's been a couple of times where I've attacked in with a Batteryman monster. My opponent misreads the Honest and then ends up using the Magnus effect to bounce back the Batteryman. I can then make, like, for instance, a play next turn. But Honest allows you to beat over an opponent's monster and maybe put that extra damage on board. Sometimes you'll have a field with just 9-volt, a charger, and a fuel cell on the field, and you're still going to need maybe like 1200 or 1400 points of damage per game, and you can help to push for that with your Honest. So that's it for the monsters. Now going to move on to the spells of the deck. I'm going to start things off with 3 Monarch Storm 4th. Now, I was really happy when I found out that this card wasn't hit on the ban list, specifically because it is just absolutely necessary in the Batteryman deck. You're going to want to go into Storm 4th as much as possible. It's a Magnus out. It's a Dark Destroyer out. Just basically tributing your opponent's monsters is great in this game. You can tribute Charger or for Fuel Cell. The best play, of course, is to tribute one of your opponent's monsters for Charger, then get that special summon for Batteryman 9-volt, and then be able to move forward and just sort of go off from there. So really good card, and absolutely necessary. Next, I play 2 Pot of Duality. You're not going to be special summoning all the time, so Pot of Duality is basically to help you dig for those combo pieces and get your plays ready for that big push that you're going to do. So basically the Batteryman deck just sort of pushes one giant, attack on the field. So it's really good to have Pot of Duality to be able to, like, for instance, dig for your microcells, maybe dig for a 9-volt, or even for any other card in the deck, like an Honest or something like that. 2 Mystical Space Typhoon, self-explanatory. I actually took out Twin Twister for this, specifically because hand advantage is important in the Batteryman matchup. Being able to draw into, like, Monster Reborn-esque things like Call of the Haunted is really good. Having to discard things, there's nothing that really pluses off of a discard in this deck, and you have cards to deal with your opponent's trap cards anyway. 2 Batteryman Charger. It's a Monster Reborn for any Batteryman. You just pay 500 life points and special summon it, and that is super good because it will also trigger your 9-volt and will allow you to maybe, like, put some plays on if you want to make, like, an Exceed summon. 2 Dark Hole, obvious, self-explanatory. Book of Moon, also self-explanatory. Flip monsters face down. you know, you could flip a dark destroyer face down, for instance, like that, and then bounce him away with your fuel cell. And then final spell card is one Short Circuit. Now, Short Circuit is an awesome card because whenever you control 3 Batteryman, which is going to be pretty often, activate this effect to destroy all cards your opponent controls. So this is sort of like better than Raigeki in my book, simply because you're able to just destroy not only the monsters, but also your opponent's spells and traps. If this happens, like, you know, for instance, you could bait out like a Stardust or a Starlight Road or something like that, just really helping you to go off with your plays. It's not really minus in any way, so it's just an awesome card. Your opponent will never see it coming. So that's it for the spell cards, and I'm now going to move on to our traps. The trap lineup, it may seem a little bit old or a little bit antiquated, but it's something that's worked for me, specifically in this format. So I'd like to just, you know, if you have any suggestions of traps that I could put in, or, you know, different things like that, I'd love to hear them. So to start off, 3 Mirror Force. A Mirror Force is awesome in this deck, specifically because you want to protect your field. I've been thinking about replacing them either with Storming Mirror Forces or with the new Rippling Mirror Force / Drowning Mirror Force that is coming out in the Shining Victory set. But, you know, I'm sort of split on that for that. But for right now, 3 Mirror Force has been working really well. I'm just going to keep it at 3 for a while and test out the Drowning Mirror Force when it comes out. Next, 2 Call of the Haunted. Special summon any of your monsters from the grave. Special summon a Used Honest. Special summon a 9-volt to get another search. Just a good card all around. Then, of course, 2 Trap Stun. Reason why I'm not running the Twin Twisters in here. 2 Trap Stun. You just flip this up on their turn. The strike is negated. The Solemn Warning, their Mirror Forces, just pretty much everything. If they don't negate this Trap Stun, you're going to OTK, period. It's really good. Then Portable Battery Pack. A lot of Batteryman players don't really run this now, but I think it's a really great tech card, specifically in the late game, because it's like Call of the Haunted, except the main difference is that you get to reborn 2 Batterymen instead of 1. So, you know, reborning 2 level 4s, 2 level 5s, 2 level 6, go into, you know, any kind of XYZ play that you want. Just really good. Bottomless, self-explanatory. Compulse, Ring of Destruction. I opted for this over the Solemn Warning because of the extra damage that you can put on board. Oftentimes, if you get a Ring of Destruction off on your opponent's turn and then go ham with your Batteryman play on your turn, you just win from there. And then finally, Torrential Tribute. So that's it for the main decked Batteryman. The extra deck can have pretty much anything that you want to have. Level 4s, 5s, and 6s. A lot of people decide to play both Pleiades and Ptolemy simply because you can use a play where, you know, make 2 chargers and go into a Pleiades, or, you know, for instance, go special summon 2 fuel cells on the field, go Ptolemy for 2700, detach the fuel cell to add that same fuel cell back to your hand, and then special summon it back on the field. Puts like 500 or 600 extra damage on board. Could be enough to defeat, but oops. Ultimately, it's really up to you. So, you know, that's going to be it for my deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want any more content like this, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe to the Team Time Rider YouTube channel. This is the Mermail Master.